So, I've seen this question floating around the internet for the last several weeks, and I really haven't put too much of an emphasis on it, mainly because I was waiting for the off season. But also, when you really dissect it, there's reasons to have a conversation about the future of college football. And what it really pertains to is who's going to be the first newcomer to win their conference title? And will it happen in 2024? Let's go ahead and discuss. But if you are new here, welcome on into the channel, people. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. I get it. The season's come to a close. Best of luck to Sharon Moore and the Michigan Wolverines in 2024. But I'm here to keep you entertained until kickoff in week 1, and then well after that too. But we got recaps of last season, a look ahead at this season, transfer portal still running rampant. So if this is your daily dose of college football, you need to survive the dreaded offseason, might I recommend that you smash that subscribe button down below, leave a comment telling me your thoughts on who is the team that is going to win their first conference title. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, your entire workout regimen, and even those who are just fans of college football, because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport. Go ahead and follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, Twitter, X, Instagram. I got Facebook, so just look me up. But that way, conversations surrounding college football never have to stop flowing. This is an interesting subject matter. It really is. And I thought, well, let's wait until we have some downtime to break this into multitude of conversations. But you look at the new conferences, they are expanding. Every single one is seeing expansion next year. In the Big 12, you were adding in Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah. In the SEC, you're bringing over Texas and Oklahoma. They're saying, see you later, Big 12. We're taking our trophy and we're leaving here with it. In the ACC, you're bringing over Stanford, Cal, and SMU, who also just won a conference title, saying, hey, AAC, we're going to take this one with us. You can't bring it back. We're switching out the A to C for champions, and that's why we're going to the ACC. And in the Big Ten, of course, you have the additions of UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington. So there's a lot of change going on in college football. But the question turns to, who will be the first newcomer to win a conference title? And what's crazy is every conference could actually see it happen this year. I do think that when you look top to bottom, there are at least 6 teams that are going to compete for a conference title in their new respective homes. Now, the question turns to, will it be done and who has the best chances? I'm not going to go ahead and rank them today of who I think has the best chances, but what I am going to do is I'm going to talk about every conference. So let's start off with the SEC. You're kidding yourself if you don't think Texas has a shot. You are absolutely out of your mind. You're on some type of crazy pill, and I would like to enjoy it and partake in this, take a nice little nap, because if you'd be sleeping on Texas, if you're sleeping on the thought that they cannot win a conference title, they are built to win next season. And I mean everything, not just the SEC, not just multiple playoff games. I'm talking about a national championship, because Sarkisian this past offseason went out and did what he's always done. He's worked the transfer portal in his favor, and he's retained talent as much as possible. But the difference is he's brought in talent that resembles the 2020 Alabama roster. Anybody remember that team? Number 3 in scoring. They had a Heisman Trophy worthy wide receiver. They had a quarterback that set records for completion percentage. They have all that. And it basically is emulated now in Austin. You have Silas Bolden as your Jalen Waddle. You have Devonta Smith clone in Matthew Golden. You bring over Isaiah Bond from Alabama. Amari Niblack is now your tight end. Not to mention, I haven't even brought up guys like Jonte Cook and Gunnar Helm, who are still on the roster, along with Jaden Blue and CJ Baxter. That's an offense that has weapons on weapons on weapons on weapons, and your jaw will drop to the ground when you think of any team competing against them. It's why Texas has a shot. And defensively, they've added in only a handful of players, but they are difference makers. Andrew Makuba, defensive back from Clemson, ACC Defensive Player of the Year in 2021. Trey Moore, defensive player in the AAC for UTSA last season. And they're plug-and-play starters. They're going to be fine. Oklahoma, I don't think has a shot this year, but what I will say about the Sooners is that they are retaining talent to where if they make the college football playoff, no one should be shocked. Nobody. What they're bringing back defensively is second to none. They were able to keep 2 of their main starters, and also they were able to work the portal and bring over a few other guys, along with guys like from last year, such as Deshaun McCullough, and of course Peyton Bowen, who is expected to have a breakout sophomore surging season. Offensively, there's a reason why Dylan Gabriel left. And I do think that we don't need to fall into the bull syndrome status because of good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't really matter. Jackson Arnold is a solid quarterback, and eventually he will be the reason we are talking about Oklahoma contending for an SEC title. Will it come next season? That's neither here nor there, but I don't think so. Texas has the better shot, and I do think that Oklahoma still has a shot at being in the college football playoff, probably finishing 9-3, 10-2. Longhorns can actually go 11-1, 12-0. Big Ten, I think there's only one team. It's Oregon. Oregon right now, if you were to go ahead and look at my standings and most people's standings, top 5 team in college football, they're a top 3 team for me in college football. In fact, I would say I like their chances over at Texas right now, simply because of what they have returning and what they brought in. You basically are replacing Bo Nix with left-handed Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, and you basically are replacing Troy Franklin with an emerging receiver who could be there for 2 years in Evan Stewart. Taz Johnson's not going anywhere. Your defense just brought in Jabbar Muhammad from Washington. That's a plug-and-play outside boundary corner, reliable tackler in open space, and your offensive line is fortified. That's all you need to be successful in the Big Ten. And as long as you continue to produce those same numbers, how are you going to say otherwise? Because what? Oregon is West Coast? That's why they're not going to be built for the winter. They're not going to be fine when they have to go play in November at some frigid stadium outside. Don't give me that. They're a team that's built to win. And they're a team that's built like a Frankenstein monster that can easily carry themselves in any form they see fit. I don't think USC is there just yet. I don't think UCLA is there. I think Washington, if Kalen DeBoer were to stay, would have at least been in the conversation of outside contender. Now I think that they're about a year away. Jedd Fisch is going to do wonders in Seattle. I have no doubt about that. And anybody who has ever watched one of my videos understands why Jedd Fisch is the right guy to lead the Huskies in the future. But I just don't think it's this year. I think it's Oregon or bust. And then you look at the other teams. Of course, there's a reason why. Penn State's going to be top 10. Michigan's going to be top 10. Ohio State might have the best roster we have ever seen in college football. They're that well equipped to run through the table. I do think Oregon, though, stands a shot. Now let's look at the ACC. SMU is going to be a dark horse here. And I know it's crazy because if you look at the front runners and the teams that are probably really well put together, SMU has funds. SMU is going to be one of those few programs that we talk about 7 or 8 years from now when they're hoisting up a national title and we're saying, how did they get that done? Because NIL exists and because the transfer portal is running rampant and because of you can't afford that type of talent, you're going to bring it in all the time. That's what's going to happen if we don't relegate NIL. SMU is going to be one of those programs that benefits more than anybody else. They have a coach that is very clear, a front runner to be a name that everyone is going to know by the end of next season. Like, do you remember when Dave Aranda was putting down his process at Baylor? And then a year later, he goes and he wins the Big 12. And he also takes his team to a Sugar Bowl appearance. And everyone starts saying, Dave Aranda, next big name. That's going to be Rhett Lashley if he does what I think he can do next year. You're returning your starting quarterback in Preston Stone. You brought in a couple of names via the portal at running back, at wide receiver. You also have a very stable offensive and defensive line, and trench play is essential. And if you have all that coming back and your defense is sound in the secondary, you can upset Miami. You can upset Clemson. You can hold your own against NC State and North Carolina. And maybe, just maybe, you get to Charlotte, you could beat a Louisville. You could beat a Florida State. You could beat any team in college football. And I'm telling you right now, I do believe SMU in the not so distant future is going to be one of those programs that we see alongside like the Ole Misses and the Ohio, the strike that, pause, wait, like the Oregons of the world, like the Texases of the world that utilize the transfer portal and NIL as a booster to only fortify their roster. I believe SMU is right in that category. But I'll be completely real with you. The conference that is going to have a winner in its first year is the Big 12. I truly believe that. As much as I do love what Chris Kleiman has been able to implement in Manhattan, what I think Lance Leipold is going to do with Jalen Daniels next season, and a full year to really be able to build this offense up again. What I look at with TCU and Sonny Dykes, Mike Gundy, and Oklahoma State, they're all good. But Arizona and Utah are two teams that I think are going to come in immediately and make a case to be the front runners and the faces of the Big 12 because they're just built that way. I know Brent Brennan is a brand new coach, but when you bring back a wide receiver like T-Mac and what he just was able to do against a Pac-12 competition, he's going to feast the Big 12. He's going to eat everybody's lunch money and still be hungry for more. Not to mention you retain so much talent defensively, including your leading tackler, Jacob Manu. I don't think that that's really that much of a drop off. And then Noah Fafita is a top 5 quarterback in college football going into next season. Yeah, I said that. I think he is a top 5 passer in college football. I think absolutely he should be a front runner to win the Heisman Trophy. And I believe he should be a front runner to be considered one of the faces of the sport. That's how good Noah Fafita was. So you have that quarterback back. It doesn't matter that you're changing coaches. You're not changing charismas or personas or any of those other things. So you're built in that process. And then you look at Utah. Utah has every year the exact same formula, and it works. It works. Fundamentally, amazing defense, stable offensive consistency, the ability to score inside the red zone, veteranship at coaching. They had one of those missing last year, the ability to score inside the red zone. Still a top 20 defense, top 13 in total yards allowed, top 15 in total points allowed, top 25 against the run, top 30 against the pass. They were one of the best third down teams in college football. Why? Because of the man leading the charge. Kyle Whittingham is a stud that is probably seeing the game pass him by where he gets to be considered a GOAT. But the man is considered, in my eyes, the most underappreciated coach of the 2000s. And he belongs there for a reason. Every season, every year, you know the formula is going to work in Salt Lake City. And it's going to work next year because you have a quarterback going back for his retirement fund process and Cam Rising. And Brant Kuithe is not going anywhere anytime soon either. Imagine those two last year as back-to-back Pac-12 champions going up against everybody else with what you saw defensively. You don't think that they win that game against Washington? You don't think that they're able to hold their own against any other opponent that they lost to? You don't think that they're going to be able to withstand the trialing times and get victories at the end of the day? You don't think that they can beat a team like Oregon State with Cam Rising and Brayton Kuithe? That's coming now to the Big 12. That's joining that conference where there is a lot of optimism, but also a lot of question marks. Colorado, how good are they going to be? Kansas State, are you improving with Avery Johnson? What about TCU, a one and done? Dave Aranda's on the hot seat 3 years after being coach of the season. That's what's in the Big 12. So you can't tell me for 1 second that Arizona, with what they're bringing back and what you're adding now to Utah. By the way, they also got Dorian Singer, a really good wide receiver who just 2 years ago had over 1,000 yards at Arizona. You can't tell me for 1 second that the Utes are not going to ute their way up the ladder and find themselves at the forefront of every conversation that revolves around the Big 12. You just can't. So I think that there's an opportunity for all 4 of these conferences to actually see a newcomer win. Texas in the SEC, Oregon in the Big 10, SMU in the ACC, and Arizona or Utah in the Big 12. I think all of that could happen. If I were to be a betting man, the Big 12 is the front runners. Absolutely, and they should be. But make no mistake, any one of these conferences could see a contender emerge out of nowhere. The difference is that when you look at the Big 12 and how much questions reside there, it's very easy to turn your attention right to Tucson and right to Salt Lake City. And if one of those teams ended up winning it, don't say I didn't warn you. I just think it was always a given thought. As good as the Cowboys can be, as good as TCU can be, as good as a lot of these teams can be, actually, there's just something about Kyle Whittingham that stands out. There's something about the Wildcats roster sticking behind as Jed Fish departed for Seattle that stands out to me. And maybe that's going to carry a little bit of weight in the Big 12. Maybe enough to where we're talking about one of these schools as a legit front runner for a national title in 2024. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.